Senators, and welcome back to Star Wars Democracy. This one's going to be a fun one. I'm really excited for this one. We're going to be talking about our predictions for Ahsoka Episode 5. And with me, I have my good friend, Journeyman. How's it going, Journeyman?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Excited to talk about this episode.
Yep.
I feel like this past week has gone by like so slow, but yet so fast. Like it felt like it was going to be forever till we get this episode, and then
Yeah.
it's finally here, and it's like it's happened so fast.
Couldn't agree more.
But let's see here. We got a few people in the chat already. Tony. Oh, Tony's saying here that he submitted his predictions. So if you don't know, before every predictions stream that I do a few days before on the community tab, I put a little link to a Google form that you can fill out, and I read predictions off of that Google form. So Tony submitted like 5.
No.
It's like you're just supposed to do 1, Tony, but Tony did 5. But that's why he's a
He went
senator
a
of the
little
channel.
overboard. It's fine.
Yeah, that's why
It's
he's the
fine.
senator of the channel, though. He loves to share his opinion, which makes him a good senator. Oh, that's me. And then he's not going to be with us tonight. It sounds like he may catch the latter end. He has some work business to get to, so no big deal there. No big deal there. Okay, so let me throw up the banner, and then we'll get right into our predictions. And as always, these streams are brought to you by the senators of the channel. If you want to become a senator of the channel, make sure you head over to the channel page, or you can click the description, hit that join button, and become a senator of the channel. You get access to loyalty badges, custom emojis. We'll start doing members only streams here pretty soon, and members only community posts. So would really appreciate it if you headed over there and supported the channel in that way. Kermagen, Star Wars Kermagen is in the chat.
Hello, Kermit.
Hello there, Star Wars Kermagen. It's good to see you, buddy. Okay, so let's get into this. So I wanted to talk first, and you know what? Let's just do this. We're going to take the banner off. We're just going to start right off the bat with an I Love Democracy segment.
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
So I posted on the community tab a few days ago which lightsaber you believe, or the senators believe, Anakin has in the World Between Worlds. If you didn't know by now, spoiler warning, my goodness, everyone should have watched it by now. But Anakin Skywalker appears in the World Between Worlds, or what we believe to be the World Between Worlds, at the end of Ahsoka Episode 4. So, and the first thing I noticed, do you remember? Because I know you and I, we were watching it together. That was one of the first things I said to you. I was like, what? The first thing is, okay, Vader's theme is playing. Something is good here. And then also, whose lightsaber does he have? Because he has a lightsaber. And if this Anakin is supposedly dead, and he's supposed to be a quote unquote Force ghost, or just in the afterlife of some sorts, I don't think he needs a lightsaber. So for the segment here, the I Love Democracy segment, I asked, is the lightsaber Anakin has at the end of Episode 4 Anakin's or Vader's? And 65 with 267 votes, by the way, which is quite a lot for our channel. 267 votes. 65% say that it's Anakin's lightsaber. 35% say that it's Vader's lightsaber, which I think is pretty interesting. So that's like almost 1/3 people say that it's actually Darth Vader's lightsaber. I don't think I've actually asked you this yet. What are your thoughts?
As you were asking the question, I went and looked up the picture on my phone. So I think, so if we go back to Revenge of the Sith, from what I remember, Anakin uses a lot more silver in his lightsaber, if I remember correctly. And in this picture, it looks like it's more of Vader's because it's more
Mhm.
it's basically all dark except the middle piece where you
Right.
would have it. That makes in my mind a lot of not it doesn't make sense necessarily, but like it like from the picture that's what it makes sense to me is it's Vader's because once again we asked this question last week, but
Uh-oh.
like
May have
why
lost you.
was oh
I think we may have lost you.
I'm still here.
There we go.
Are we back?
Try now. Mhm.
Okay. So we talked about this kind of last week, but like why did Dave have Vader's theme playing there at the end? Was it like a tease or something? I think if
Mhm.
anything, it's probably it's Vader's theme because we're probably getting some sort of Vader. I couldn't I couldn't tell you why. I don't know why. I just from the picture it looks like it's Vader's. I don't know why, but I think it's
Yeah.
Vader's.
That's interesting. Like, so when I first saw it as well, I thought it was Vader's as well. And part of me still, when I look at it, sometimes I'm like, "Eh." But Vader's hangs from the top down. That's the only problem I have with it. This lightsaber is definitely hanging from the bottom down. Vader, if you
What do
look
you
up
mean?
Vader, I'm
What do
saying
you mean
like
by hanging down?
I'm saying like if you look at a picture of Anakin, the bottom of
Hmm.
the lightsaber is what's clipped to the belt. And if it were to ignite, it would extend towards the ground.
Right. That's
Vader's lightsaber, he hangs it from the top down. So the top of his lightsaber aims up. So if it were to ignite, it would go up. So if you go look at a picture of Vader and you can see his lightsaber, the top of his lightsaber hangs from his belt, whereas Anakin hung his lightsaber from the bottom down. So then that's the only thing I have with it is it definitely like there's definitely a different feel to it than Anakin's. I'm leaning more towards Anakin now, but there's definitely something. And I know, like even Tony, if Tony was here, he'd say, "Oh, it's just the chrome reflecting off the background," which is probably true. I mean, by now, and we'll talk. We're going to go into a bunch of theories and speculation.
yeah.
We have to remember that as Star Wars fans, sometimes the simplest answer is the answer that's true. Like we get so far into the weeds, and that's what makes it fun. And not saying we can't do it, but we have to just remember that it's sometimes just the simplest answer, and that's probably what it is. I think it might just be Anakin's lightsaber reflecting the chrome off the background of the World Between Worlds, and it's making it appear a little bit more dark. But
Hmm.
again, who actually knows? I want to shout out Senator Kathleen here really quick. If I can pull her comment up real quick. She said, remember and say a prayer for the 9/11 victims today. Thank you for that reminder, Kathleen. Very sad day in American history, but our prayers are with those families and all the victims of families of those attacks. So thank you for pointing that out. Curbigen here says, from what a lot of analysts are saying, he was saying it looks like Anakin's. Senator Kathleen says, are you talking about the lightsaber? Because if you are, it looks like his Revenge of the Sith saber. So again, Anakin's lightsaber.
Right.
So I'm still leaning towards it being Anakin's, but I don't know. What are you thinking?
I'm just trying to look at like lightsaber revenge of this. I'm because I haven't looked at it in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. There's so many different versions. It could be, yeah, yeah. No, actually, it might be Anakin's. Now that I'm looking at more, it's probably Anakin's. I mean, he's dressed up in Revenge of the Sith, so technically he is still. I think what's throwing everyone off is Anakin also turned to Vader in Revenge of the Sith, and he didn't get the suit till the end. So technically, there's a point in time there where he
Right.
is Vader. So can you technically call that Anakin? I mean, he is both. He is both. But like, can you technically call that Vader? I mean, it's more or less just Anakin because at that point we still know him as Anakin until he dons the suit. In my mind, yes, he has turned to Vader, but he hasn't become full Vader until he has put on that suit. So it's probably Anakin.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why he would
Well,
go back to his Darth Vader if he's dead. If this is truly him and he's dead, he would have been going back to Revenge of the Sith, which we see kind of in
mhm.
episode 6.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so can I tell you my fan theory of what I believe is?
Sure.
So, in my heart of hearts, I want to believe that this lightsaber is a new lightsaber altogether,
Interesting.
and
Okay.
it's a combo between Anakin and Vader's. And do you want me to tell you what I believe the lightsaber color of said lightsaber is?
Sure.
I want
Go
it to
ahead.
be white. I want it to be a white lightsaber like Ahsoka's to symbolize, number one,
Interesting.
the purity that Anakin has received after being redeemed from the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I think that'd just be so cool because as we're going to get into, in my heart of hearts, in my wildest fan dreams, and the wildest theories that I could possibly cast, I want Anakin to be some form of Mortis God. And we'll get into all that in a little bit here. But I just
Yeah.
think it'd be so cool to see Ahsoka, who obviously has a connection with the daughter and has white
Mm-hmm.
lightsabers. And then you have Anakin, who holds a connection in some way, shape, or form with the father, who's also a Mortis God, also have white lightsabers. And I know the white lightsabers come from purifying red crystals. I know where they come from. But I'm just saying, we know that just as much cool, just as there's lore and stuff behind the colors of lightsabers, it's also an easy way to signify to the audience what's happening. And I feel like,
Right.
number one, Ahsoka's lightsabers are white, and that probably has like normal casual fans asking, why are they white? And then if you give Anakin that same color of lightsaber, it kind of shows how, number one, they're connected, but number two, they're kind of on the same playing field and have the same level of status, So I would
Mm-hmm.
love it's just a fan theory, but as we're going to probably have to keep coming back to tonight,
Yeah.
sometimes the simplest answer in Star Wars is what the answer is. And
Mm-hmm.
most likely it's just Anakin's lightsaber that has a bit of a different tint to it just because of the environment that they're in. Thank goodness for the World Between Worlds and
Mm-hmm.
the volume. But because if you think about it too, they didn't have the volume when they were filming with his lightsaber during Revenge of the Sith. It was just green screen.
No.
So
Yeah.
nothing was going to reflect off of the lightsaber. In fact, they
Sure.
probably had to make it so it didn't reflect because
Yeah.
otherwise it would just look blue or green or whatever they're doing. So I think that there's a bit of a difference there.
Yeah.
But I think that we just have to remember that it's it's going to be a simple answer, and if he even ignites his lightsaber, it's probably just going to be blue. So
Yeah. Which
sadly,
still be cool. We haven't seen his blue one since. I mean, we haven't technically got to 7 at this point, so we haven't seen it ignite since that point. So,
mm-hmm.
but coming from him
Yeah.
igniting it, that'd be kind of cool. Also, and I know not to throw a weird. Wait, hold on. That's my question. No, that doesn't make sense. Never mind. My theory was going to be how did Ray ever get it? But I feel like we have an answer for that because I was going to say that'd be kind of cool if he passed this down to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka somehow gave it to Maz or whatever, and that's where she kept it for all that time, just for Ray to pick it up.
Mhm.
It'd kind of be like it, it'd be once again Anakin kind of forcing things and kind of being like, "Hey, I see you as this person down the road," type of thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it,
I think that they know we know how he eventually or she eventually gets it. But hey, what are those theories? It's like, Dave Filoni likes to just ignore things, and maybe it happened. Out of all the theories,
yeah,
maybe that one's the right theory. So,
yeah.
Senator Kathleen says, well, from what I've been reading and watching, it sounds like Ahsoka is having flashbacks, but I hope it turns out Anakin is the father from the Mortis arc. I really hope so too. Um, I don't.
You just want to get into predictions because I feel like that's where we need to go here.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like we do too. I'm trying to figure out. Is I don't know. Kathleen says here, while we're waiting, the Star Wars Curmudgeon, what are you most excited about seeing tomorrow? I feel like we're not actually live for some reason. Let me see. Go on my handy dandy YouTube app here.
Handy dandy YouTube. It says we're live.
Unless we're like frozen or something.
I
don't think we're frozen.
don't think we're not.
Kathleen, and I don't know if you can hear us, but if you can, you might want to refresh your device if we're frozen.
Because I can hear us on my phone.
Yeah, I can too.
Oh.
I'll post it in the chat just to make sure.
Yeah, I would.
Let's see here. Curmudgeon says at Kathleen, I just want the episode to build upon the foundation of last week. It could turn out really good, or this episode can go really badly. Okay. So let's just get into the speculation. Now, you told me that you have a theory that you want to run by me. So, do you want to run your theory first, or do you want me to run my theory first? By the rest
I'll
of
let
the
you run your
senators?
theory because it kind of went off of yours a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, my theory. I've been posting or bits and pieces of my theory here, or the theory that I subscribe to. That and I guess I should say I've built this theory off of different videos that I've watched. So again, I can't take this as full credit for
Yeah.
me, but I think in my and again I have to preface this. This is just my heart as a fan. I don't even necessarily think this is going to happen, or
Mm-hmm.
based off of whatever does happen, it's probably going to be left vague to where my theory will still hold, but it's just not going to be
Mm-hmm.
as intense as I'm making it. So we know that the world between worlds is a place where there's pathways and portals. We know
Mm-hmm.
this from Rebels. That's how the
Yes.
Star Wars databank on the website also officially defines it, is basically a pathway and portals. As I've been doing my research, there are these beings in the Star Wars galaxy that largely predate the Jedi Order that we know. Now, I believe that they were around at the time that there were Jedi, but the Jedi Order that we know was not necessarily information. There's these beings called Celestials, and the Celestials have a unique, if not very, very, very strong connection to the cosmic force. Now, this is all legends, I believe, but obviously with the Mortis arc, this is canon. So
Mm-hmm.
the Mortis gods are what we believe to be these celestials. Okay. The Celestials were also around during the time frame of the Rakata. And I don't know a ton about the Rakata, but I know that they were dark side force users, forging an empire, um, all kinds of threats. And there's so much to go into with the Celestials too. But I think what's important to point out about the Celestials and the research that I've been able to gather is they created through their technology a basically a pathway and portals. That's how it's described, is the ability to use portals to travel to different points in the galaxy and or galaxies. I've also believe I've heard too that they set up some type of barrier for hyperspace where it would prevent people from going out of the galaxy, but that's a whole separate thing. So these Celestials, the Father, the Son, and the Daughter, the Mortis gods, as we call them, they're called the Ones, Mortis gods, Celestials, etc. We know that they ended up on the planet Mortis. Now, why? Well, basically, they're religious recluses. In fact, the Father says it in the arc. He calls them anchorites, I believe is the word. Anchorites, which is like basically religious people who kind of like separate themselves off. We know that he takes the son and the daughter to Mortis because that's where he can control them. And he says that if he were to let the son and the daughter go out into the universe, they would basically wreak havoc because of the constant struggle between the light and the dark, or selflessness and selfishness. It's a vicious cycle. He basically says they would tear the galaxy apart. So he brings them to Mortis to where he can control them because he is the only one that can control them. And then you have Anakin come to Mortis, drawn in by the Father, because the Father, in my opinion, is even though he's a celestial, his power, and the only way that he can die is by the dagger of Mortis. His power is being diminished because he's the constant battle between the light and the dark is starting to wear on him. Not that he would necessarily die, but he needed someone to come to Mortis to take his place so that he could ensure that balance persisted. Okay. And then you get the whole Mortis arc where you get, the son corrupting Ahsoka. Ahsoka dies, and then this daughter selflessly sacrifices herself to save the father with the dagger of Mortis. And then you have the Anakin and the father transferring the daughter's life essence into Ahsoka. And then you have all that transpire, and at the end you have all the Celestials, the ones die, the son and the father included. So I would assume at this point then, now in canon, I believe that these are the only Celestials that we know of, the ones. I think it's safe to assume from legends and just in general that there are other Celestials out there at one time that maybe have died or whatever. And so, and to backtrack a little bit too, in the video that I released today, which go give it a like if you haven't already, it's important to remember that when Ezra opens up the portal on Lothal to the world between worlds, you hear the daughter say, "We are the ones who guard the power. We are the beginning, the middle, and the end." She says that whenever he opens up the portal. She also says that in the Mortis arc when they're walking to the Father. I posted this in my video, and Anakin goes, "Who are you?" And she goes, "Where are you taking us?" And she goes, "To the Father." And then he's like, "Who are you?" And she goes, the way she defines them is, "We are the ones who guard the power. We are the beginning, the middle, and the end." Okay, so what power is she guarding? So you watch that in the Mortis arc, and it's like, okay, you're guarding some power. That's interesting. Coincidence that it also shows back up when Ezra is opening up the portal on the Thal. We are the ones that guard the power.
Well,
the Celestials who created the portals are the gatekeepers to the world between worlds. They are the protectors. They are the guardians of this power. And they have to, and the Father says this too, I didn't put this in the video, and I should have. He tells Anakin, he says, there are some who seek to exploit our power, or something like that. I think that's what he says. There are some who seek to exploit power.
AKA
And
in that arc, it was, or when we get down the road, AKA it would be Palpatine
the
at
Sith.
that point. Yeah.
The Sith were trying to exploit the power of the world between worlds. And also, I believe the Rakata, who are also dark side, selfish in nature, were also trying to get access to that power. So the Celestials are the ones who guard the power. And with the fact that all of them go away, die, at the end of the Mortis arc, leaves the world between worlds and that power susceptible to threats. And what I think is interesting is who is the one who actually, yes, Ezra is able to get into the temple, but who's the one who prevents Palpatine from actually doing anything inside? It's Ahsoka. She's the one who takes the saber and slashes the lightning when he's pulling Ezra and all these things. So she's kind of has a status of a guardian there. But I also think that what's happening is, and as a tangent, I mean, obviously we know that the cosmic force is responsible for the conception and creation of Anakin Skywalker. This mystical energy field known as the cosmic force literally had a hand in the birth of Anakin, who was called the Chosen One, who was called to bring balance to the Force. There's literally a prophecy about it. He was confirmed to be the Chosen One on Mortis when he proves to the Father and to everyone else that he has the ability to overpower the daughter, the light, and overpower the son. That scene is just fantastic. I love that, where he literally grabs them both and
he
slams them to
both,
the ground. That's that is very powerful. He confirms it at that point. He proves it. And so what I think is happening is it's basically the story of Jesus. Basically a father-like figure, which in Star Wars, God is basically the Force. The Force is what controls everything, both cosmically and the living Force. They're both connected. There's a difference between that, by the way. I had to learn that. This shows you how much of a Star Wars fan. Did you know there's a difference between the cosmic and the living Force? And it's explained in the episode where Yoda goes to the Wills. And it's explained that the cosmic force has to do with destiny. And the living force has to do with all living things and actual creation. And that's why they go back and forth with each other, because the living returns to the cosmic, and then the cosmic in turn recreates the living life. And the cosmic is responsible for destiny, and then the living force is able to manifest and use that force. So it's like when they say, may the force be with you, it's essentially saying, may God be with you. May the sustainer and creator of life in this universe, and who's in control of your destiny, be with you, and may good things happen to you. So the Force creates Anakin Skywalker, who is prophesied and confirmed to be the Chosen One to keep balance. And when he fulfills his mission, although a little bit differently than Jesus, because Anakin turns to the dark side and does some bad things.
A little bit different.
It's a similar point, a little bit different. But he still proves and fulfills the prophecy, defeating the Sith, and then returns to the cosmic force, where he can be reunited with the person, the creator, which is the Force, but he's the manifestation of the Force because he was born by the Force. And then Ahsoka is just whereas Anakin is on the same level as a Celestial because he was formed by the Force itself. So I believe that he has a godlike sense to him. There's a deity to him. Ahsoka's the exact same way. She literally has the life essence of a Force god poured into her to revive her. And so not
Yeah.
exactly the same, but they're on the same level. And if they are the ones that guard the power, if the Mortis gods were the ones to guard the power, that's what I hope to see Anakin and Ahsoka's destiny as. I hope that
Yeah.
their destiny, and I've made videos about this already, Ahsoka becoming the protector of the world between worlds and the power that it holds.
Which, just to interject here, but
Mm-hmm.
has anyone noticed, and I think our theories are kind of lining up correctly, of like, or at least your theory is, but has
Mm-hmm.
anyone noticed in this story? So let's just go back to Ezra, right? So he opens when about
Mm-hmm.
what time was that in Lothal? Was it like it was right before the Battle of Endor, right? When Vader throws Palpatine off the right?
At the time that it's happening, at the time they're on Lothal, you mean?
Yes. So
No,
what?
it's that
So
happens all before episode 4.
that happens all before Episode 4. Okay,
Yes.
but it would kind of make sense that so my theory kind of still holds up here. It would make sense that no one was there when Ezra went in. Only we only saw Palpatine, but he was trying to, gain the power, right? What you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It would make sense that Anakin shows up now if this theory is correct of him being the celestial and like actually Dave doing the proper work of putting Anakin in the rightful place of being the chosen one, of saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, remember that arc, that Mortis arc that we all went to and watched and confirmed it? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't want to back then, but he's taking the place now. It would make sense that he shows up and protects it now
Mm-hmm.
because we never saw anyone. We didn't see the son, we didn't see the daughter. All we heard was the daughter, like you said. But it
Yeah.
would make sense that he shows up now and protects it. That way it stays a consistent story of, yeah, we really don't know what this place is, and then Anakin is going to be the one to show us what this place actually is. Because all
Yeah.
we've known is that this was the world between worlds, like you said, portals and passages. That's really kind of what we thought it was. We could go in at any time, and that's what even Ezra describes. Like I could go in back and save Canaan, which we come to find out wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But like he could have done it if he really wanted to, sort of thing. Like he could have
Yeah.
stepped through that portal. He could have went back to he could have went back to his parents. I know that's later in this season and like it's right near the end of it, but he could have went back to his parents at some point probably, and that's what Palpatine kind of shows him. Like
Yeah.
I built this part of the temple and all that. So he could have went back and did a whole lot of things, but it makes sense that he would come back now and say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, how are you, Ahsoka? Like, let's protect this together. Like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep the balance. You're the daughter, basically, and that we need to protect this."
Well, what's interesting too is if you remember, Ahsoka, like Ahsoka doesn't know, just like Anakin doesn't know. Their minds get wiped
Yeah.
about Mortis. She has no idea. And so again,
Yes.
we have to be careful here. In my wildest fan dreams, Anakin in
Yes.
this episode is going to be like, "You're the daughter. You have all this power. Like, that convoy that's been flying around. Like, yeah, let me tell you about that. All the stuff." But is that really going to happen though? Is that really going to happen?
Probably. Probably not.
Kermagin here. Kermagin said, "If the criticism of wait, let me backtrack. If the criticism of the show many have had is that you have to be Clone Wars and Rebels fans to really get the Ahsoka show, it's going to be really, really bad if Filoni gets too out there." So I guess that's the question. How out there is too much out there? Because to me, the Mortis gods, without any explanation at all, is a little bit out there, which is why we have to temper our expectations
Yes.
and just know that that's probably not going to happen.
Although
Unless
I
we
would
get some type of recap before the episode actually happens.
a recap, or my thing would be, I'm trying to think of a time when me watching something made me not want to go back and like watch the other stuff, or like I wasn't caught up
Right.
on what was going on. And I'm like, my only thing with that would be, so what if it's kind of out there? It makes people go back and want to get into Star Wars if that's the case. Like,
Yeah.
hey, why was this a thing? Like, why does this make sense? Oh yeah, you got to go back to Clone Wars. I know it's an extra step, and people don't want to do that because it's already a hard time doing streaming, and like adding an extra step to go do something is really hard in this time, just for business wise, because you want to keep people's attention there. But if
Hmm.
people care enough and at least want to try and understand it, you don't have to go watch the whole of season whatever that is, right? Of Clone Wars. But at least go back
Hmm.
and watch the arc of it, and you may get a little bit more out of it. I think
Yeah.
it's probably too much for to ask people to go do. But at the same time, I'm like, if that's what Dave is wanting to do and what we hope would be going on,
If
like the
that's what
wildest
serves the
fan theory,
story.
yeah, if
Hmm.
that's what serves the story, then why not? Like, I also feel like that would be a perfect conclusion to what we know of Anakin, Ahsoka, and then who. My question is now, if that's the case, let's just say go with your fan theory, right?
Hmm.
Um, who is the son at that point? Because that's the
Well,
big question that
that's
I'm
that's a
asking.
great segue. There's a great segue to Kathleen's comment here. She says Ezra was able to get into the world between worlds without a ritual, unlike Palpatine had to. So it makes me wonder what Ezra really is. Do you think he ends up being the son after all? No, Kathleen. Unfortunately, I don't believe that Ezra is going to be the son. I used to think he was going to be the son, but the new way that I'm approaching this theory is that the Mortis gods don't need to be replaced. Just as much as they were actual beings, and Dave Filoni has said this, which by the way, I've gone back and watched as many interviews as I can with Dave Filoni on the actual Mortis arc. Because I'm like, okay, what beans has he spilled here that I need to be privy to? Like, what was actually going on Mortis? And
But
he is
didn't
very, very careful not to say anything.
yes, my question is, didn't in the Mortis art you said like, didn't you just say like they don't they're not privy to be replaced? Like they don't really need to be replaced necessarily?
Well, the father was looking for a replacement.
Yes,
The
and
father
that's
was
my
looking for a replacement.
yes, because he say his power was dwindling between them both, and he's like, I need a replacement here.
I don't remember what exactly he said, but yes, we're left to assume that he brought his children, the father or the daughter and the son, to Mortis because that's where he could control them and make sure that they don't wreak havoc across the universe. And he was
Right.
looking for a replacement. So the logic for me there is that no, he wasn't necessarily going to die, but he knew that he was losing the ability to keep his children under control. And if the
Yeah.
son was able to leave Mortis, bad things were going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so to answer your question, Kathleen, the way I used to think about it was okay, Ahsoka becomes the daughter, Anakin was supposed to be the father. Well, who's supposed to be the son? I don't see it that way anymore because they don't. You don't have to have Mortis gods. The daughter and the son were just embodiments of what it meant to be selfless and selfish and to
True.
harness the force on this side of the spectrum and to harness the force on this side of the spectrum. They were never
Yes.
meant to be, they were beings, but they were never meant to be the actual light side and dark side of the force in a sense. And for there to be light and dark, there has to be a being that embodies it. That's not what I think was happening. I used to think that's what's happening, but I don't think that's what's happening anymore. It was, to
True.
me, purely just a metaphor of the light side, the dark side, and balance in between. Now, the father did actually have a role. He was literally trying to maintain the balance. And if you watch that episode, all of the Mortis gods have to die by the dagger of Mortis, except the son is killed by Anakin with his lightsaber. But
Yes.
only after the father sacrifices himself, stabs himself with the dagger of Mortis, because the daughter and the son were connected to the father. And once the father
Yeah.
lost his power, the son lost his power, and Anakin was literally able to stab him. Now, some believe that, okay, because Anakin didn't kill him with the dagger, the son's still alive, and the son is now Anakin in the world between worlds, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't think so. I don't think that theory is going to hold. But I don't think that you have to have just Ahsoka is connected to the daughter. And I used to say, oh, Ahsoka is the daughter. She is the daughter because the daughter is in Ahsoka. I don't think that anymore. I think the essence of the daughter has been transferred to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka is Ahsoka. Anakin is Anakin. Anakin is not the father. Ahsoka is not the daughter.
I
Ahsoka
think
is
the daughter
Ahsoka, and
just,
Anakin is Anakin.
I think the daughter has just been protecting, like we see Morai. She's just been a watcher, a protector over Ahsoka. She has the
Right.
embodiment. She is the true embodiment of the light side, not specifically the daughter, but close as you can get to the daughter. That's why
Mhm.
she said, like, or that's why, you know, they transferred her essence into her. That's why it happened. So I think you're gonna have to have, if we're gonna do the game of like who is the son, who is the daughter, and all that, you're going to have to try and find a person that is the embodiment of the closest thing to that feels like they are both a
Of the
son,
dark side.
yeah, of the dark side. But I, what's so interesting, because we wrap them up in father, daughter, and son, which they are, but like you're gonna have to try and find a person,
Mhm.
and I feel like this is what's so interesting. Anakin already has a son, but he doesn't embody the dark side of the Force. He's just
Right.
he's on the light side. So you're gonna have to try and
Mhm.
find someone with a connection that feels like a son to Anakin. If you're gonna play the literal game of like who is it, you're gonna have to find
Mhm.
someone who's kind of a son to Anakin that would fit perfectly for that role. And I still think it would kind of be cool to have Ezra as it. Although I know
Yeah.
Dave has said before that he doesn't think, I think I saw an interview. He said he doesn't think Ezra will ever turn to the dark side because he has his family with him. Like he had lost his old family. His new
Mhm.
family is Kanan, Hera, all of the rebel or the ghost crew. So as long as he has that, I don't think he's ever going to turn. So I
Right.
don't think it would be Ezra. So we're gonna have to find someone else to play that role if we're playing that game.
And I don't mind that theory. I used to subscribe to that line of thinking, but I just don't think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they need replaced, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, because because like in real life, there's always the embodiment of good and bad, right? There are
Mhm.
people that embody goodness, and there's people who embody darkness. The balance, the only person that really plays a role in this, like you said, is the
Mhm.
father. He's the one that keeps the balance between both.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you're going to always have people that are in the dark and in the light, but it's the
Mhm.
father's job to embody both, or
And to
not embody
keep
both.
everything in
Yeah.
balance.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole Mortis arc is a metaphor Yes,
Yes.
Dave Filoni has said in the interviews that they were actual beings. It wasn't like a dream or anything,
No.
but it was something that actually did happen, but it was a method for explaining the constant battle between the light and the
In the
dark
dark. Yep.
and the need for balance. And Anakin is the only one who was actually prophesied to have a role in all of this. Ahsoka has a part in it because she, in a sense, inherited the life essence of the daughter. Yet she
Yes.
is not the daughter. She is just Ahsoka.
No.
And Anakin is just Anakin. He is not the father. He has assumed the role of the chosen one because the father doesn't refer to himself as the chosen one. He says, "I was
No.
looking for the chosen one, the one that
Yes.
was prophesied to bring balance to the Force." So let's kind of switch gears just a little bit. We'll stay on track here.
Yeah.
And Kathleen, like, to answer your question here, when you say, but now that Ahsoka is the living embodiment of the daughter, there needs to be balance somewhere, don't you think? I get what you're saying, but
But that's
I
the
guess what
father's
I'm
job.
saying, yes, so the father is in charge of maintaining balance, but I also don't think Ahsoka is out of balance. Like, Ahsoka doesn't need the opposite end of that spectrum. She's just Ahsoka. I don't think that she embodies what it means to be pure and selfless and a Jedi, but she is not the light side of the Force, if that makes sense.
If she was the quote unquote daughter here, then
Mm-hmm.
and if what we think she's like dead or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then wouldn't it make sense for Ahsoka to stay there with Anakin, protecting the world between worlds and not having this, what we're thinking of for this story is like a journey of destiny or something like that? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like she's able. Anakin's dead. Anakin is protecting the world, if what we're
Mm-hmm.
going off of. Ahsoka doesn't have to be there. She's gonna get her destiny laid out in front of her. But if her destiny was just to be the daughter, then she would stay with Anakin wherever he
Right.
was.
Mm-hmm.
There would be no reason for this show to exist.
Yeah. 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 So to change gears just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about what we think Ahsoka's role is actually going to be. I think that, and I mean Anakin. I think that what we can expect to see is we have to temper our expectations. We
Mm-hmm.
can't we can't. Everything that we've talked about is great, and I'm not saying it's not possible.
Yeah.
But we have to temper our expectations and say, okay, will all of this just go over a normal fan's head? Now, the question is, do you think that in this episode we will see Anakin truly becoming redeemed? And let me ask another question too. What do you think we're actually seeing here? Do you think that we are seeing actual Anakin? Because I could tell you, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this up real quick, just in case people don't necessarily want to stick around. I think a lot of people have already seen and heard a lot of these, including you. But
Mm-hmm.
the newest rumor coming out about this is, well, first, told you this. We were supposed to get the Mustafar scene between Anakin and Ahsoka. That apparently is no longer happening. So, and I'm not necessarily mad about it. Like, as cool as it sounded, I'm not sure that
I'm not sure that
I
we
don't
need to
think number
relive
one
it.
it's
I think it.
exactly necessary. Yeah.
Yes.
And I would prefer, because the world between worlds, if we're going to keep with the same philosophy of it, it is in the portals you see you see events that have already taken place in actuality. So to have it become a thing where you could see different events and different timelines, if you want to call it that, I think would go against what we already know about the World Between Worlds. So I'm not even mad about the Mustafar scene being cut. But what people are also saying is and this is supposedly just a vision that Ahsoka is having. And that makes me a little bit, I'm not feeling
Yeah,
that.
if it's a vision,
I
I
would
don't
much
want.
rather prefer Ahsoka have actually ended up in the World Between Worlds.
Yes.
But they're also saying too that it's left open to interpretation. So yes, while it may seem to someone who doesn't know the World Between Worlds and what it is, it may seem to them like it was just a vision. But to people who know the World Between Worlds, perhaps it could mean that she actually ended up there and was actually interacting with the real Anakin. So
Well,
that might be better.
so if we go back and remember what the World Between Worlds was, I think I said last week when I was giving my kind of thing on the World Between Worlds. I can't remember what I said, but I kind of said something to the effect of when Ezra first went into the World Between Worlds, it was him getting his kyber crystal, and it was sort of a like no one. It was essentially what you said, a vision. Like he was in there, and he grabbed it. He went up and grabbed the the kyber crystal, right? And then,
Right.
from what I remember, the World Between Worlds kind of disappeared, and he was back where he was. So
Right.
essentially, it was kind of like a vision. When we see Yoda, it's kind of the same thing. We see him go. We kind of see them go separate ways, and we're like, "Hey, Ahsoka's staying here. Kanan's gonna go somewhere, and then Ezra's going somewhere." They all 3, if you think about it, they all 3 had a vision. Now, Ezra's was to go into the World Between Worlds and talk to Yoda. Kanan's was, to be in the Jedi Temple, facing the Grand Inquisitor at that point. And then Ahsoka's was to, you know, understand Anakin, right? Like that's when she kind of what
So
Dave said is she fully
they all
understood
had their own visions. Yeah.
Yeah. So
They all had their own visions. Yeah.
in a way, it would be disappointing to have this be a vision, but he set it up to where, like you said, it kind of leaves it open to interpretation. Was it really a thing, or
Yeah.
was this
Was
just a
Ezra really
vision?
talking to Yoda, or was it just a vision?
Right. And
I think he was talking to Yoda, but Yoda was on
I think
Dagobah at that time. So it's
yeah,
like interpretation. Was it? I don't know. That's a good point though. I'm glad you brought that up. Now I feel better. Even if they do just leave it as a vision, I feel better about that. I didn't, I guess, link
because
those
I
two
know a
together.
few people out there have said like if this is truly what it is, then they're kind of done with the Ahsoka show, and I'm kind of like, no. If you go back and like rewatch what Davis said in interviews and everything, and you actually watch the episodes, it kind of makes sense that they would be this way if
Yeah.
if it's not a truly physical thing. Like he leaves it open for interpretation.
So let's assume for a second, then going down your train of thought.
Hmm.
Let me actually respond to Chris here real quick. Good to see you, Chris.
Hmm.
Chris says, "Do you think Luke is going to be included in Ahsoka season 1, episode 5? And did you know that Lucasfilm said that they want to bring Ahsoka season 1, episode 5 to movie theaters?" So to
Yes, I did
answer
hear about that.
to answer the latter, Chris, that's not a they want to. They are. They literally are. I think it was literally the day after episode 4 came out. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're putting this in theaters," which is just mind blowing to me because
Which, by
I
the
don't know
way,
why I'm nervous about this episode. I
I
looked it up
looked
too.
up.
There's
Yeah, I'm like
I'm like,
there's no movie theaters around us that
yeah.
are doing it.
So This is gonna be a crazy episode. Like they wouldn't be
Yeah.
putting it in movie theaters if they didn't think it was crazy. Now, is it Mortiscod crazy? I don't think so. But you better bet that your boy Hayden's gonna be in that episode for a good portion if it's gonna be in a movie theater.
Can I also
So-
say, going back to the Mustafar thing?
Let me
I
answer
think-
this last part real quick.
Yeah,
Or the first
go ahead,
part.
sorry.
Do you think that Luke is going to be included in Ahsoka season 1, episode 5? I hope. And I do think I don't think we'll see Luke, Chris, but I think we will hear about Luke. And I think that in the Mandalorian season 2, when Ahsoka tells Din and Grogu there aren't very many Jedi left, she doesn't even know who Luke is. I don't think she knows who Luke is. I think she will learn of Luke interacting with Anakin in episode 5. And by the way, I predicted this in my own fan fiction because this is the first in my fan fiction, although it's not happening exactly as I predicted, I believe that it could be Luke or Anakin. His final commission to Ahsoka is, Ahsoka, I have a son, and he, number one, is who redeemed me. He's very powerful with the Force. Go and help him and to rebuild the Jedi Order to become what it was always meant to be. I think that's going to be a commission from the Chosen One to Ahsoka, is to go help Luke get started a Jedi Order. So to answer your question, Chris, I think his name will be mentioned, but I don't think we'll actually see him. So let me catch up on a few things here.
Yep.
Senator Tony, back in the chat, says, "Did I miss anything?" Oh boy, Tony. Just make sure you go rewatch everything. But don't leave now. You gotta stay in the chat. Let's see. Okay, Senator Kathleen had said that she believes Ahsoka is out of balance now, I think. I would agree. There's something very unbalanced about Ahsoka at this point. And I think Anakin is going to help her rebalance herself, shift her perspective, teach her a lesson of destiny, etc., etc. Let's see here. Chris says, "Do you think that was really the real Anakin Skywalker or a clone of Thrawn?" I don't think it's a clone of Thrawn, but let's talk
no.
about. So we were talking about whether or not we believe that it's actually Anakin, though. And I'll go ahead and remove the spoiler warning thing for now because I don't think we're talking spoilers. There we go. So let's talk about that. Or you were talking about the Mustafar scene. Let's go back to the Mustafar scene first.
Yeah. So I am, if it is true that it is being cut, I still feel like there's a way to show it. And once again,
Okay.
my theory, and kind of from last week's, what I've been saying, like you were just saying, Anakin's going to teach Ahsoka a thing about destiny and what it means, and like shifting her perspective a little bit. I still feel like we will get a lot of stuff that we've already seen, probably shot from a different perspective or like a different camera angle or something like that. But I still feel like there's probably a really good shot that we get the Mustafar scene, but it's going to be in the background somewhere. Like Anakin and Ahsoka are probably walking along the world between worlds, and this is my theory. They're walking along the world between worlds, and Anakin points to these portals, and it's like, all of this is basically my fault. You had nothing to do with it. Like it hurt. It did hurt me that you left, but none of this. And it goes a world between worlds. It goes to the Jedi Temple. You know, when he's storming it, it goes to, you know, him killing all the Jedi and all that. Like even down the road or whatever. Like just him reconciling with Ahsoka and being like, you did nothing wrong. You stood up for what you believed in. This was your destiny. It wasn't meant for me. Like I made my own choice. You had made yours. Was I hurt and upset that you left? Absolutely. but I feel like you will see those points in time. It'll just be in the background of what Anakin is saying to Ahsoka. So that's what I
Yeah.
think would be going on.
Well, I brought back up the spoiler warning thing, not because you were talking about spoilers, but because there are rumors of this happening. And supposedly we're going to get Captain Rex. Supposedly. These are all just speculations and rumors, cannot confirm. I actually think, and I'm being serious when I say this, there's a part of me that actually still wants to believe that we are actually going to get the Mustafar scene. I feel
Yes.
like they might, like, they know they have something super special with this episode. Like, super special with this episode. I don't know how Jason Bourne with making Star Wars or the Bespin Bulletin and all these leakers and people who report on the rumors and leaks. I don't know how they get their information. I'm sure they have really, really, really reliable sources. But I'm just telling you, the same guy who reported that this was happening is the same guy who's reporting and saying, oh, now it's not happening. And he has a pretty good track record. So this scene was shot. It is out there in existence somewhere.
They better
somewhere in some capacity.
If it's cut,
So
they better bring it up at some point just to show us.
And he's saying that he believes it was it was cut because someone who has seen all of the episodes says that he did not see, or whoever this was did not see the Mustafar scene in the show. Okay, well, I don't know this person. Maybe this person is lying. Maybe they're deliberately trying to say things to get fans off and throw us off, which is fine. So I actually believe that we might still see it in some capacity. But he's saying we could see Captain Rex, Siege of Mandalore from a different perspective. But my question to you is, if we're going to see the Siege of Mandalore, which is great, Anakin was not at the Siege of Mandalore. What? And this is why I don't know if I trust anything that's being said, because what happened at the Siege of Mandalore, and we saw a lot of the Siege of Mandalore too. But why is that important for Ahsoka's destiny? Like, wouldn't you think?
I mean, they'll find something. But what you were gonna ask, what I was thinking you were gonna ask, it's like, why does this matter? Because it doesn't involve Anakin. And I'm like, well, my thing was gonna be, it's not Anakin's story. It's Ahsoka's story. We have to understand what she went through. She had to go fight Maul. She was helping out a friend at that point. She said she was not a Jedi. She came back willingly as a citizen and said, I'm still going to fight this war, even though I don't believe in it, even though I wanted nothing to do with it. She honestly was helping out a friend, not only in Bo-Katan, helping out with that, but she was also helping out Anakin in some way. Like, I feel like they're probably, because that was probably one of the last times that they ever had a pleasant conversation going on, was before they left. So I think it's the last. It was the last time. Like, it was the last beautiful moment that they both had together, and Anakin's probably gonna bring it up and be like, "Remember the good times we had. Thank you for helping me out." Something along the lines of that. Like, I understand that you had to make the decision you did, but once again, all of this is not is my fault. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And it's her story. We have to remember that.
Let's see here. I want to bring up. I'm kind of going out of order here because I'm trying.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bounce back and forth, but you might remember Siege of Mandalore better than I do. But Tony here says, remember that Ahsoka had the chance to tell the council what she heard from Maul about Anakin, but she chose not to after Rex asked her about that. I don't remember that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I don't remember. So maybe that's kind of where they could play into, is like she had the chance to tell. Oh, I see what you're saying, Tony.
Yes.
you're saying that she had, because Maul told her about Palpatine's plan and how he has been grooming Anakin for this moment, and she could have told the council about that, preventing, they could have confronted Anakin and helped him. And so,
yes, but
yes,
she
and he says, looking back, Ahsoka now feels that was the pivotal moment, because she could. That is very true, Tony.
yes,
Because she could have stopped. There were many times in her life where she could have prevented Anakin from turning, or at least help. Well, I say that, but that's the whole point of this episode, is to show her that regardless of what she would have done, nothing would have changed the
nothing would
fact
have
that Anakin
changed
was going to
it.
turn to the dark side. So
No, and that's
throw it all out the window.
you do make a good point, Tony. Like I agree with you that she probably feels like that was the last pivotal point, because it kind of was, until, once again, going back on Dave's interviews, until we see Ahsoka and Vader kind of reconnect when Vader says the apprentice lives, like that whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
She never knew that Anakin, like, she had an inkling, but until that moment, she really never understood that Anakin was that, until she finally recognizes that that is who he is. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you get to what he's talking about, and that was, you're right, like she did have a chance. And I think that's what also sets it up, what Balin said, of like your history and Anakin's history are filled with what did you say, death and destruction. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of
Your
you
what does he say? Your legacy, like your master's, is one of death and destruction.
and that's probably
Man.
true. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just from that one moment, like, she had a, because she went to the council, and yeah, because it was at the end when it was just Yoda and Ahsoka there, and Yoda says, like, something on your mind, young Padawan, and she says, "No, I'll just leave it," or whatever. Like, she never says anything. Like, she could have had a chance
Mm-hmm.
to be like, "Hey, Yoda, this is going on," and she didn't. So
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna
Yeah.
see something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Switching gears just a little bit, go back to Anakin for a little bit here. Senator Kathleen
Yep.
says, I think we are seeing the redeemed Anakin in 5, and he shows Ahsoka his journey to this point, giving her a lesson in the path she's paralleling so far, and how she can change her future path. So I guess that's the question we keep going back to, right? Is who is the Anakin that we're seeing? Like, is it really Anakin, or is it just some type of vision? What is your final thoughts on that?
I think either way, it's Anakin. Whether it's a vision or not, it's Anakin, because we see this in Rebels as well. Kanan worked through the cosmic force to get Ezra to where he needed to go. Ahsoka even says so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Kanan is part of the cosmic force now. He probably had a hand in this. That's what I think is going on. Either it's
Mm-hmm.
Anakin actually being there, or just a vision. Like, Anakin has a hand in this, putting her in that position to be like, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
here's what you need to do." Because
Mm-hmm.
Luke kind of has the same thing. Like, if we go on Luke's story, Luke has had visions and voices in his head, like, go to Dagobah and all that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that, I think that's the cosmic force working again, but that's just the voice.
Yeah.
We're now here in the world between worlds, getting a full on, like, what they can actually do, like being in
Yeah.
this place that we see all the force ghosts probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so my thing is again, like Yoda, that was actually Yoda talking to Ezra. Even though Yoda was alive
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it was Yoda, because the world between worlds is a place outside time and space. So I do believe that this is Anakin, and I think that this is an Anakin who, again, was created by the cosmic force, prophesied to be the chosen one, fulfilled that prophecy, did have a moment where he lived half of his life in the light and half of his life in the dark, perfectly balanced. And no, there's no justification for what he did as Vader, but he did fulfill the prophecy of defeating the Sith and bringing balance. Because the dark there can be dark and light. That's balance. What there can't see is there can't be someone who exploits the Force like the Sith do, who use the Force in a selfish way. And that's what has to be destroyed, is people who manipulate the Force for their own power, whereas the Jedi sought to study the Force, understand how to be one with the Force, and to pursue its will, rather than exploit the power like the Sith do to bend it to what they want. And so he fulfilled that prophecy.
It's the intention of which you come to with the Force. It's your intention.
Selfless versus selfish, yeah.
And even with Anakin probably still he is the essence of balance, because he can, and we all do this constantly on a daily basis. We all have negative thoughts. But if those negative thoughts reign over us, then we're just going to think negatively, and that dark side power in us is going to think that way. If we can still think negatively, but if we act in a manner that is positive, we're more likely to go to the good side or the light side, because it is the one that gives us peace, and the one that actually has reason behind it. There's no reason behind all the negative thoughts that we have. And yet that is what Anakin exemplifies. He has done all the bad stuff that you could possibly ever do. If you want to throw in thoughts, whatever, he's done all of it bad, but yet there is always a redeeming characteristic about each and every one of us. We could do some of the most horrific things. Once again, like you said, there's no justification for what Anakin did, but he was the one that recognized his selfishness and his shame in the final moments because of Luke, and said, no, this is wrong, and I'm going to finally literally throw his power away. He literally said, no to the Empire, no to the dark side. I'm going to finally choose the light.
No to his life.
Yes.
He probably knew by doing that he was going to die. And so he gave, like you said, everything that was selfish about him, he gave up in that moment. Which, by the way, the what brought that, the catalyst was, yes, Luke, his son. But the one thing the Jedi told him he couldn't have is the one thing that actually prompted him to defeat the Sith, and that was love and attachment for his son.
Yes.
Just beautiful. Just a beautiful story of Star Wars right there. Let's see here. Angelina, a new senator in the chat. Angelina, good to have you here with us. I'm so excited. What was your reaction to seeing Anakin in Ahsoka? I was shocked, honestly. And by the way, I have to say, I was a little bit upset with how Anakin looked. I mean, it's pretty good, okay? I'm not going to lie. It's pretty spot on. I was a little bit but the more I look at it and the more I see side-by-side comparisons now of people putting it on social media and stuff, I'm it's pretty darn spot on. You can't really get much better than that.
No. Well, and that's what people were upset about in the Kenobi show, was they didn't de-age him. And
well, that looks terrible. The Kenobi show looks terrible, I will say. I have to say that. That's just my opinion, though.
Yes. But that was like a big problem for people. It's like, well, why don't you DH him and put him back into Revenge of the Sith face? Like, give
Yeah.
him the face that we all recognize. And here, yes, it's kind of a side per side CGI thing of, hey, we're going to take this from episode 2, because that's what they really did. They took it from episode 2 when he's leaning up against the door and looking at Padme and smiling. But still, like, for what they did, I don't care if it's a recreation or not. The fact that they used that, and it's, once again, it feels like Anakin, I was happy. Like, I was not thinking we were going to get him actually in this episode. I thought we were just going to get a voice or something, and it was going to cut like we saw in the show, but just get the voices and be like, oh, well, what's happening now? Like, I didn't think we were going to get a full on shot of him. So just to get that was just a pleasant surprise.
And, you know, I saw people talking about this, not to diminish what The Mandalorian Season 2 was able to deliver with Luke. That was a fantastic surprise. Love that. I'll still remember that day, that moment, everything about it, right? But there's something so much more special about this, because what we didn't have, even as special as it was with Luke, that was the end. There's something special about this, because
Being
now we can
the
take
myth.
this and be able to speculate and talk about it and get excited, knowing we're about to receive it literally tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they took the lesson. They're like, okay, we did it with Luke and it worked amazingly well. Let's do it again with Anakin, but let's do it better, because we're going to give him to him. We're going to give the fans what they want, like, even sooner. So kudos to Luke.
If we're getting what we said or the rumors are, what you said, like we're getting Rex and all of that. And once again, my thing with the whole thing with the sequels that I hated is you didn't bring the band back together. You didn't get Han, Chewie, Leia, Luke all back together. Like all of the band back together. The fact that they would be doing it just for the Clone Wars and being like, hey, we're gonna give you Ahsoka, we're gonna give you Anakin, we're gonna give you Rex. Like, I think just in those three, besides Obi-Wan, like, I feel like that's just a great thing that once again the sequels missed out on, and that's what I'm happy about. If that's the rumor and that's like what is actually going to take place, then great. Have the band be back together. I want to see. We all have wanted to see a picture of Rex, Anakin, and Ahsoka in live action together. The fact that we got them both, the fact that we got Anakin and Ahsoka in one thing is great. You give me Rex with that, and now we're feeling like we're in the Clone Wars again, which is really cool if that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what they're doing. So Senator Tony says, you know that after an hour-long meeting, you need to provide donuts. Senator Tony, you know that this is not possible. I mean, I might be able to create a donut emoji for you, but unfortunately, there will be no donuts provided. But I appreciate your attendance nonetheless. So, Senator Kathleen here says, it would be nice to see Qui-Gon show up and hear his explanation of the Force. Yeah, it would be nice to see that link between the one who saw Anakin as the chosen one, really get to see like Hayden and Qui-Gon interact. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be nice.
I mean, it would be nice to have the father of technically what was supposed to be Anakin's father, like earthly father in a way, like have Qui-Gon show up. Yeah, that would be nice. Like, because since the father died,
yes,
technically Qui-Gon is that father figure for Anakin. So I don't know. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Chris here says, do you think they'll still make Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2? What is your thoughts on if they're included Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi Season? So the issue with that almost lost the stream there, but we're back. The issue with that, Chris, is Maul, I believe, well, Kenobi from my brain. I can't remember the timeline of it. I want to say that Kenobi takes place after Maul dies. No, that wouldn't be possible because he doesn't even pick up his lightsaber again until Kenobi. So it would have to be after. So I guess it's possible we could see Maul. I guess we could see a live action readaptation of the Rebels scene. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on it? I mean, to be honest with you, Chris, I don't want to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2.
Yeah.
I think, as we've talked about, Journeyman and I before, if they're going to redo anything, if I had to choose between the sequel trilogy, which I don't like, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, I would have them redo Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's how much I did not like Kenobi. And so I personally do not want to see a season 2 until they redo season 1. But that's just me.
I
and
totally
yes, you
agree
could
with
technically see Maul in a season 2. So
Would I love to see a season 2? No. Just because I don't think they did it right, because I think we were all hoping what we were gonna see if we're getting Anakin and everything play out. I think, let's just be honest, we all kind of wanted to see Anakin do more of the Jedi Temple storming thing, and I don't think they did that right.
Yeah.
We didn't, like, as brutal as those scenes would be, I don't care. We've all wanted to see them. Like, throw them out there, do it right. Also,
but
I
they
don't
wouldn't
think the
do it
story.
right.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing.
That's the
The
problem.
Obi-Wan Kenobi show is just a big mess because it was not shot right. It had shaky camera work. I didn't like the story and the direction of Reva. Uh, they didn't do
So
anything.
no, we would not like a season 2.
No, and
Yeah.
for Maul, if there was to be a season 2, I don't think it would be wise for them to do it. To bring in Maul,
fair enough.
it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Senator Tony says also, I believe this is supposed to be Zeb's CGI face on The Mandalorian. Yeah, Zeb looked really good in The Mandalorian. In my response to not giving Tony donuts, he says poodoo. So tell us how you really feel, Tony. Senator Kathleen says Anakin, and I will take Captain Rex any way I can. Wish Ahsoka 2 brings back the clone de-aging theory that was supposed to happen for Rex. Maybe they find out about Thrawn's cloning happening. Yeah, I mean, Rex will be very old at this point. And just to spoiler warning, in the article, it does say that if we do see Captain Rex in tomorrow's episode, we will not see Tamira Morrison's face. We'll just hear his voice. And we'll just see Captain Rex. And someone will be underneath the armor, but it will not be Tamira Morrison. That's the rumor, at least. But Tamira Morrison was also in Kenobi just out of nowhere. So you never know where that guy is just going to pop up. So Tony says Maul would be alive. He was running his crime organization. Yes, that makes sense. I was a little off on my timeline. But like I said, I've tried to erase Kenobi from my brain.
Honestly, I would want a Rogue, like a Rogue season 2 or Rogue 2 movie or something like that. Like continuing off of
Rogue
what
One.
we got. Yeah.
But that's basically A New Hope, though.
I know, but like
Episode 4.
going from Maul's like launching off point. Like we get Maul at the end, like following that storyline. That's what I would want.
Yeah,
more than season 2 of Kenobi.
Fair enough. Okay, we're gonna get into another I Love Democracy segment here. We got to read our senators' predictions. So
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
with it anyway. Okay, so first prediction, like I said, Tony submitted 4 responses, which is totally fine. Thank you, Tony, for making sure that
Thank
your
you, Tony.
voice is heard as a senator. But first, have not seen Jedi Joel in the chat all, but Jedi Joel submitted a response. Is on a scale of 1 to 10, is at a 10 for level of excitement for this episode of Ahsoka. Now I gotta figure out how the responses are. Let me see. I was gonna try to pull it up on my computer, but let me try something else. The problem is I don't have very good Wi-Fi, and so when I try to pull it up on the computer, everything just crashes and burns.
Yeah. Could I pull it up on Community tab? I guess it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's actually like a Google form. Just trying to see which senator is which. Let me see if I can pull it up on the computer real quick. But yeah, I need to get better Wi-Fi because it's just not, the technology over here is just not great.
It's not the greatest.
See, we try to have nice things and nothing ever works, but that's fine.
It's okay. It's fine.
I still can't believe they're releasing this episode in movie theaters, though. That's just insane to me.
No, that's nuts. I was gonna send you. I don't know if I sent you anything, but as soon as I heard that, I went online and looked at movie theaters around us, and I knew it was probably not going to be us, but I had to check at least. So
yeah,
it was a
okay.
fun
So
theory
I figured it out. Yeah. Jedi Joel. Okay, so when I asked what is something you predict will happen in the episode of Ahsoka, Jedi Joel said Ahsoka will be showed different events and how everything would bring her to the same point in time with the same outcomes. Eye of Sion will arrive and hook up Thrawn's ship. Ezra will sneak or be on the ship, and they'll return or get ready to return to the Star Wars galaxy. And then I asked, what is a wild theory you have? And Jedi Joel's response was, Shin will turn on Balin for more power. Do you think Shin will turn on Balin?
I mean, from the Sith's point of view, they're always looking for power, and it's always been the apprentice taking over master. So it wouldn't be crazy, but I think right now she's too loyal to Balin because I think Balin would just take her out in no time.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Now for Tony's 4 responses.
Okay.
Tony is at an excitement level 10. Tony, his first prediction says Ahsoka dies and returns as Ahsoka the White. So that's a good thing we haven't talked about either. Do you think we'll see Ahsoka the White in this episode? You do?
I sure hope so. I mean, I want her in the white robes. Right. I've wanted it since the end of Rebels. What we got with that, I know it would just be a great thing for us to actually have Ahsoka in white. But if not, I think the story will still be good enough.
So I finally we watched, I've never seen the Lord of the Rings movies, and I was like, you know what? I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm an Ahsoka fan. I want to see Ahsoka the White. I was like, I really need to watch the Lord of the Rings because this is all and somewhat at least inspired by Lord of the Rings and Gandalf. And
sure.
So Gandalf returns in, I believe, the second Lord of the Rings movie, but he dies in the first movie. He goes, "You shall not pass," and then he dies. But yeah, I was like, it's a pretty good movie, and I really hope we see something similar with Ahsoka. But for it to be a 1-to-1 comparison, Ahsoka will have had to actually have died, and I don't think that she actually does die. So,
Mhm.
Tony's other prediction is the episode will have several plot lines to cover. Hera will go to Cetos and find Huyang still looking for Sabine and Ahsoka. Chopper will assist in flying Ahsoka T7 away to follow the ghost. So, there you go. He also
Mhm.
predicts just one word: excitement. So there you go.
Interesting.
And the
I think
last one is Ahsoka and Anakin. What?
I said I think that one will be correct. That there will be excitement.
Excitement. There you go. Other one here is Ahsoka and Anakin finally come to terms with Ahsoka's guilt and Anakin going to the dark side. They have a moment where they embrace. We'll all cry. Emotional music. As they walk out of the world between worlds, there's a voice crying out in the distance. How about me? And it's Mace Windu. So. There you go. There's Tony for you.
Oh.
And I'm very interested to see what, if those were Tony's actual predictions, let's see what his wild predictions are.
Okay.
A wild theory: Anakin will forgive Ahsoka for becoming Vader. Not sure how that one works. Anakin will forgive Ahsoka for becoming Vader. Yeah, Tony. This is about what I expected from you. Another one. Hera will decide to dump the New Republic and create a rescue crew to find Sabine. She may not know if Ahsoka is dead or alive. I mean, I could definitely see that one. I'm not sure Hera Syndulla is a fan of the New Republic at this point.
No.
Let's see. Going back to the Mortis arc, this is his third response. We predict that Anakin will be the father, Ahsoka will be the daughter. For a son, why not Obi-Wan?
But once
I don't
again,
think
he
so.
doesn't embody the dark side. But no.
And I don't think they have to. We've talked about this, Tony. You need to
Yeah.
go back in the stream and rewatch the stream. We talk about that all. Let's see. The last one here is Baylan spared Sabine's life because he intends to use her knowledge gained from the Rebels World Between Worlds episode to access a portal located on Thrawn's ship, which leads to a restored Lothal temple that Palpatine wanted to use to trap Ezra and open up a portal. Thrawn ends up fighting Baylan to get to the portal, and Baylan gets killed. Sabine closed the portal for good like she did on Lothal. That was a lot there. But that's interesting, though. So we remember the ruins of the temple are on the ship that Thrawn was on when it gets taken by the Purrgil to the New Beyond or Peridia.
But I think Ezra
So
destroys
it's
that.
possible. The temple does crumble, but there are some ruins of it on the ship. So I think the theory is that it could still be used as an access, as a portal to get there. So
yeah, that's fair.
We'll see. We'll see.
It's not a bad theory. I actually
see.
like that one.
Let's see. I gotta backtrack here. I'm a little bit behind on the comments. Senator Tony says the theater show only 1 hour before it's live on Disney Plus. So yeah, avoid social media because it is being released in theaters before it's being released on Disney Plus. So avoid social media close to when the episode drops. Kathleen says Ahsoka is probably going to be some alternate story in the world between worlds. Maybe your other comment shed some light. Ahsoka the White, I should say, is going to be an alternate story. Okay, so I hope not. I hope Ahsoka the White is the real deal, and we see Ahsoka the White come forth from the depths of the ocean or through another portal of some sorts. I really hope so, at least.
Yeah.
You know, at one point they were talking about how Ahsoka leaves the world between worlds riding a Loth Wolf as Ahsoka the White. I think that was a rumor at one point. So, Tony says I think for Lord of the Rings, get it in the remixed version in 4K released in 2021. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we got that one. I think we were just watching it on Amazon. We rented it. So Kathleen says Ezra destroyed the portal through Ezra. Ezra destroyed the portal though, and that is what destroyed the temple. Okay, I may have misremembered that, but my point still holds: is that there are ruins on the ship. So,
Yeah.
And I think that the point could be a point. A point could be that Sabine. They could use Sabine because she's the one who was helping the Empire in that Rebel episode decipher the star map and all that stuff. So they could use her intelligence there.
Well, no, the temple is the
New
one.
senator in the chat. Oh,
so the temple is the one at the very end of the season when Ezra looks at his parents and destroys it. I think that's. I don't know. Are you? I mean, yes, I get what you're saying of the Sabine thing. Like she was helping decipher in the World Between Worlds episode. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get it.
New senator joining the chat here. Han. Han says, "You think when Ahsoka said to Sabine, 'Can I trust you?' that they planned for her to work with, I believe that's Balin." Han, thank you for being here. I appreciate the support. I don't think so. I think when she's saying, "Can I trust you?" she's literally saying, "Can I trust you?" And obviously she can't because Sabine caves.
Yeah.
But hopefully, with the revelation in the World Between Worlds that we're expecting, Ahsoka can forgive Sabine and move forward. The question is, how does Ahsoka? I mean, we assume that Ahsoka is going to go back to, or try to get to the new galaxy. How is she going to do that? Is the question. Perhaps through the World Between Worlds.
Perhaps, but I once again the rules kind of the World Between Worlds it dictates that she would have to. If this is a dream, then she's already on the planet where she fell in. She's already on that planet, so it's just a vision. So she goes back the way she came, essentially. What happened in the actual World Between Worlds episode, she would have to go back through what the portal in which she came in through. So if it's just a vision, then she gets up from her vision and there she is again, and then probably going to be the burn on her hand that gets her to the new world, anyways.
No, I hope not. I really don't like that theory. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw my video today. I gave you props in that video because you gave the theory that when the lightning crackles, that's when the portal opens. So I gave you credit in my video today.
Thank you.
You should go check it out. Give it a like, by the way.
I will.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's see. Senator Tony says that temple on Thrawn's ship works as a portal that Palpatine set up, allowing Ezra to see his parents in hope that Ezra would take the bait and get Palpatine into the World Between Worlds. Yes. So I remember what you're saying, Tony, but is that really like? I always kind of thought that was an interesting last scene. Like, is that what was really happening? Like, was that the World Between Worlds?
I don't think that was the World Between Worlds. I think that was, and I don't even think he was him trying to access the World Between Worlds. I think it was trying to get Ezra out of the way into what timeline or whatever we're talking about, like the canon timeline, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like, sure. I feel like it was Palpatine's attempt to get Ezra out of the way. That's what I think, and him go on a new kind of thing.
And to point out again, Kathleen is right here. Yes, Ezra not the temple on Lothal after the World Between Worlds does crumble, but as Kathleen points out here, Ezra also causes the temple to crumble, and is kind of like destroyed in that episode because that's when Palpatine comes out and it's like it's flickering between Sheev. So, Tony says here that was Palpatine's second attempt. Yes.
Mhm.
So, all right. Well, all of this has been fantastic speculation. Any last thoughts, Journeyman, before we go with the outro and the verse of the day here?
I just want to say I think everyone will have a great time. I hope everyone does. I hope everyone likes the episode because if not,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have stuff to say on it. But if I hope everyone enjoys their time with it. I hope it's all fun, good, and peace be with you. Honestly,
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a long day tomorrow, honestly, waiting. And I have to remind myself, and senators, please, 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 know we're all speculating. We're having a lot of fun. This has been a blast. Let's just temper our expectations just a little bit. That way we don't come. I'm mostly
yes,
speaking to myself, but I'm also encouraging everybody
yes,
else. That way we can come back from out of this episode with a good attitude and not be like, nothing that we thought was going to happen happens. We know we're going to see Anakin. We know we're going to see probably flashbacks. Just take it as a win. Again, speaking to
hmm
myself, and just move on. So,
yeah,
yeah, I agree with you, though. I think everybody will. I think this will be a 10 out of 10 episode at the end of the day. I mean, they're literally putting it in a movie theater. So,
yeah. If they didn't
it
think
would
it
be
was
the
gonna be
biggest
that
L in the
good,
world for this to be if this was even a 7 out of 10, I feel like for them to put it in the movie theater would be an L. Like, this has to be a 10 out of 10. So,
I mean, it's
all
a
right.
bold move, Cotton,
Uh,
to throw it in theaters. So
yeah, for sure. Um, verse of the day, coming from Isaiah 41, 13. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I am the one who helps you. If y'all need anything, reach out to me on Discord, in the comments, on Twitter, however you can get a hold of me. Would love to chat with you if you need anything about Star Wars or anything else. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. We'll be back live, or at least I'll be back live. I don't know if you can join me on Wednesday to give my reaction to the episode. So come and join me on Wednesday at the same time, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Can't wait to see all you senators there. With that, appreciate you all being here. I think we're going to motion to adjourn to end the stream. So may the force be with you always.